Welcome back to the channel. This week, Safari Aramax ECU module map, 5 different maps, big tunes happening, more power for the cruiser, cannot wait. So what this basically does, we've got this will go into the car. So this is the, this gives us the 5 different maps that we can choose from. There's a comfort mode, a sport mode, an off-road mode, a towing mode, and then the 5th one is the factory. So back to standard. We've got all the bracketry and looms, EGT, temperature probes, accelerator remap, everything that we need to get this into the cruiser. So a lot of it, the first of all, we're going to get the brackets, we're going to bolt them into the engine bay and actually mount the module, and then the next step is to run all the loom through into all the various plug and play bits of the engine to make sure it all talks properly to the bits of the engine that it needs to talk to. So we'll start off and we'll get the brackets installed, and then we'll actually we'll mount the brains itself, and then we'll work on the loom after. All right, so it's been a few days since we installed the hardware. Just got to get the wiring loom done now. I've actually spent a bit of time with this loom. So all these connectors are all Deutsch connectors, and basically they piggy bank in between all the different sensors that we have to plug it into the car. So we unplug the original sensor and we plug this in the middle of it and plug it back in again, so this can take a reading from all of those sensors. So there's a few here. There's the EDU1, EDU2. There is, what else? Pressure sensor, crank angle sensor. This goes into the car. So I've taken the Deutsch plug off the end of this, and this will pop into the car and connect onto this loom. Now this goes in between the throttle, and then the other end of this plugs into our control that sticks onto the dashboard to give us our different maps. The thing I had to wait most for was this clamp. So this is the EGT probe clamp. It didn't come with the kit. It normally does, but this was secondhand, so it didn't come with it. So I've got that now, and that attaches onto the EGT sensor, which we'll have to drill into the exhaust just behind the turbo. So that's probably one of the first things that are going to get done, because that's the scary bit. So I'll get that out of the way first. My goal today is to get this installed neatly so it looks factory. I don't like wires hanging everywhere, so let's see how good of a job I can do with some cable ties and this loom. It's actually a really well put together loom. It looks very robust. It's all well protected. It's going to match the existing factory loom. It does look factory, so quite keen to get this installed. Anyway, enough talking. Let's get the 7mm drill out, get this sensor in. That'll work. Okay. So where we want to drill is actually right in here. So we're going to have to reposition the camera. All right, this is the scary bit. I'm going to try and drill this into the exhaust. So it just goes behind the turbo. From what I can gather, I can't find any online instructions, but I've found a 200 series, and I've looked at the ones that were pre-DPF, and I'm pretty confident this is where it goes, but still drilling into the exhaust isn't something I want to do too much. But anyway, we got to do it. Done. So that's the hole that we've just drilled. So now what we have to do is get our thermocouple probe, the EGT probe, and whack that around it. So I might have to get under the car just to get that tightened up, but we'll get that going now. All right, so let me bring you up to speed. I finally got the EGT probe tightened. You can see it just back in there, it's all tight. So it was just the clamp, obviously tighten it up, and then make sure that the threaded top of the probe is properly secured into the clamp. They're both done, so all's left now is for me to put this cover back on, and we can get up into the engine bay and start actually putting this loom together. This is going to be quite tricky to show on camera, but that's the rubber grommet. So we're in the engine bay. This is the back of the engine bay. That rubber grommet in there, here, is we have to try and punch a hole through it and put a cable through that's going to come in the other side. That'll give us our controls for the throttle and the map module. So I'm not sure if that's in focus. Let me try that. So anyway, I'm going to get into that now and punch a hole through that and bring it in the other side. All right, this might be quite tricky to see, but what I'm going to try and do is poke this wire through. So this is the control wire, the loom that goes into the car that attaches onto the throttle and onto the map module. The keypad basically that sits in the car. It looks like it wants to go through. Historically, I haven't got the best results with these sorts of things. Today could be the start of a new chapter. Steady. So, Jetto's come around. Say hello, Jetto.
Hello, Jetto.
And he came in the nick of time too, because I was having a massive drama trying to get that in-car loom through the firewall. It was just a bit of a mission, and it took two of us, but 20 minutes later it's through. I'll show you later on what we've got to do there. We've got to connect up the Deutsch plug and put all the inside stuff between the throttle controller and the map module in, but that's at the end. We're going by the book. So the next thing it says to do is to connect these plugs into the main unit. So let's get those plugged in. Oh, that's a very satisfying click, Jetto.
Sounds like it.
Right. So that's those two plugs in. What is next? Let's refer to the instruction manual and see what they say. So that's done. So now we've got to connect. So this is the, let's find it. The next thing they want us to do, we'll get rid of the coat hanger, is connect the, I'm trying to think of the word. Why don't I just read it? The communication cable. Communications cable up here. Didn't. Hang on. Here it is. I got it. It's right here. Everybody stop looking. Jetto, stop looking. Cat 6 cable, straight in. Update software. Update the maps. All of that sort of stuff. So that is the computer wire plug thingy-me-bobby put in. Done. So I'm going to pause there. I'm going to read the instructions now. All right, so the next thing we've got to do is put this loom across. So I will get that done now. You have to have hands that are smaller than an ant's to get them in here. So the fuel sensor is these plugs here, fuel pressure sensor. So they're going to somehow go into the fuel pressure sensor piggyback, which is right underneath the intercooler. So somehow I might bust my elbow and my wrist to try and get into this plug. I'm not sure if I can get a camera in there, but I'm going to try. Stepped into the breach. He reckons he can get this plug out because I've got hands like sausages.
It's tricky.
Nah.
Yeah, let me have it.
After much swearing and trying to make these fingers smaller and Jetto's fingers smaller, we actually finally we stopped recording because it could have taken 3 days. We finally got this plug out. So now we're going to piggyback these two plugs into it. I'll see if I can get the GoPro in and show you what I'm doing. I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but this is where the plug is. That's that plugged in. And then we need to take the piggyback plug, which is this one, and plug it into the original wiring loom. Like that. All right. Done. Plug one plugged. Consider it plugged. Right. We got I didn't film putting the under sensor crank in, the crank angle sensor in, because it was right under the car. It was going to be very tricky to try and get a camera there. So anyway, we've plugged it in. So this is the probe, which so this is the map sensor. And this one I think is going to be hopefully reasonably easy, he says. Where's the... Yeah, there it is. That one just comes straight off. And as if by magic, that one goes straight on. And that plugs in to that. Right, 3 done, 2 more to go. The ECU1 and ECU2, which are here somewhere. We just got to work out which is which. Okay, so where we're at, we've got EDU1. Now it says that the white tape, which is that in the factory loom, signifies EDU1. I've sort of half released this plug already. So this is EDU1 and that's EDU1. So we'll plug that into that. Beautiful. And then that is EDU1. We'll go back into that. EDU2, which is this. Hopefully my big fat sausages aren't in the way too much. We'll plug into the piggyback, like that. And EDU2 goes straight down. Right, that is the wiring in the engine bay at least complete. So I'm going to get cable ties now. I'm going to cable tie this all up nice and neat, and then we're going to connect the power. So I found a power box on this side of the car, which has got a fuse on it already. So I'm not worried about, I want a permanent feed, so I'm not sure if this needs a permanent feed, which is very handy. That saves me extending all of those lines. Andy found this. He's bloody clever, Andy. So I've got that on. So the earth, I'm guessing that's a 12 mil. I'm only bringing one spanner back and it's a 12. And it's a 10. And I'll put the lid back on that. Then we're inside the car. Last bit. Okay, so I've got to put this Deutsch plug in. It's going to be fiddly. It's going on the wires that we pulled through into the loom. So I'm not going to film myself putting that, but basically I'm putting all the pins in through here and locking them in. But then it's going to connect into this. This is going into the accelerator, and this is going to plug into our map. So I'm going to get this all done, stick the map onto the dashboard, and then it'll come back when we're about to start it, and hopefully it won't blow up. All right, that is it. Let me just check there's no tools in here. So we've run everything. We ended up having to run another positive feed to the battery because that wasn't positive. So that's all right. So the time has arrived for us to start it up. You got the fire extinguisher ready, Jetta?
We won't need it.
All right, here we go. So I'll put the little map module there. You'll see that in the car in a minute, but let's see if it starts. Woohoo! And that's come on. All right, so we're gonna get in. Let's take it for a drive, see what it feels like. We're just taking off. At the minute we're in map mode 5, which is the standard map. So factory doesn't obviously feel any different. I'm just gonna go out onto the main road. There is the EGT sensor in there, so it won't perform properly until the car is up to operating temperature. So even if I do put it in one of the other maps at the minute, it probably won't make much difference because it's cool. That's what I'm led to believe. That was what is in the manual. So we'll get it on the road, we'll get it up to temperature, and then we'll play about with it. So we'll come back to you very quickly. So we've driven for a couple of Ks. We're up to what I think is pretty close to operating temperature. We're in mode 5. So let's go to mode 1, which is the everyday mode, and see what happens. Ooh, that's pretty good. That is pretty good. Wow. I'm very happy with that. All right, just for grins, I'm gonna go into 2. Now 2 is the sports mode. Definitely feel a difference in the accelerator. Oh, right, we've got a red light. We've got a red light. Let's see what happens. So I'm in full sports mode. That's probably the biggest difference that I will see. Ooh! Let's get in here. Yes, that's heaps better. Oh, I'm so happy with that. Off she goes. Right, job's done. Safari Aramax ECU. Tick. I'll come back in a couple of months when we have done a real world test. We're going to Morton this weekend. It does have a tow mode in it, so we'll give that a go on the sand and see how that's going to perform. But in the meantime, that's awesome. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you soon.